So before we jump into Season 2 of The Critic, I feel like we need to step away from the show for just a little bit to talk about an episode of The Simpsons that led up to the second season opener. This is the episode of Star is Burns. This is actually one of the few crossovers The Simpsons had done up to that point. In fact, I think it was the only one they had done in that golden age of The Simpsons that everyone talks about. It was first broadcasted on March 5th, 1995 as the 121st episode of the series and the 18th episode of Season 6, I believe. Written by Ken Keeler, directed by Susie Dieter. And in this episode, Springfield decides to hold a film festival, and famed critic Jay Sherman, played once again by John Lovett, is invited to be judge. Homer, feeling that Marge does not respect him, asks that he be put on the jury panel and ends up voting for the stupidest movie. Now, this episode is controversial for one particular reason. The show involves the crossover with the Critic, and this was, of course, when Fox picked up the show after ABC canceled it, putting it in the time slot directly after The Simpsons to create an animation block. So James L. Brooks pitched a crossover episode as a way to promote the Critic and decided that a film festival would be a good way to introduce Sherman. However, Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, reacted negatively when he heard about this episode, feeling that it was just an advertisement for the Critic and that people would incorrectly associate the show with him. And when he was unsuccessful in getting the program pulled, he actually had his name removed from the credits and went public with his concerns, openly criticizing James L. Brooks and saying the episode violates the Simpsons universe. In response, Brooks said, "I am furious with Matt. He's allowed his opinion, but airing this publicly in the press is going too far. His behavior right now is rotten." Now, to be fair, I think I'm on the side of James L. Brooks in this case because he makes a good point that Groening went a little overboard by especially taking his name off the entire show. I watched Pinky, Elmira, and The Brain, and as much as I didn't care for that show, I think the intro for that show pretty much sets the tone of what the people on the show did, why the people did not want to do that concept. And even if Groening would have acted like them on this, I really don't think there would have been a problem. But controversies aside, it's one of my favorite episodes of the show, and basically, it's two of my favorite shows at the time, The Simpsons and The Critic coming together in one of the show's, like I said, rare crossovers, but it's just a fun and creative episode with a ton of hilarious moments. I mean, there's just so much to admire about this episode, from the movies that the people of Springfield make, to Bart literally calling this a cheap cartoon crossover.
Coming up next, the Flintstones meet the Jetsons.
Uh-oh, I smell another cheap cartoon crossover.
Which is basically what Matt Groening probably thought of this. It's just like, on top of that, the story actually does work very well. It wasn't just a straightforward 22-minute ad for the Critic like a lot of people thought it was going to be. I mean, like I said, they make a joke about how the fact that this is a cheap cartoon crossover in the episode, just like the Jetsons meet the Flintstones. I mean, that's really great stuff. And in fact, Jay Sherman's only in half of the episode, and quite frankly, the episode kind of underplays him unlike they do on the Critic. I mean, Jay basically gets more appreciation outside of the Critic universe than he is here than he does on the Critic in the Critic. I mean, it's really one of those weird situations where Jay's kind of given a little bit more appreciation outside of the Critic than he does on that show. So whether or not you think Matt Groening was right in taking his name off the episode or not, one thing's for sure, this episode still has the smart wits, the good humor, and the surprisingly good heart to make it one of the best episodes of the show. I mean, I think Homer pretty much says it best in this episode.
You know something, Marge? It's not that tough being a film critic.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zitface.